Hello dear students, welcome to the next lecture of the subject Vermi Technology. Today we are going to discuss the topic on earthworm farming techniques and methods. I am Professor Amar Hindore, working as an assistant professor at Department of Zoology, KTH College Nasik. Welcome you for this next lecture. So, in today's lecture, we are going to discuss what is meant by earthworm farming and what are the different steps in the vermicomposting process. What is the site selection criteria for the vermicomposting? What are the criteria for the selection of containers? What are the species of earthworm which are considered to be suitable for the vermicomposting process? Which are the common species of the earthworms which are used for the vermicomposting? Multiplication of the earthworm and need of the multiplication, food selection for the vermicomposting process, preparation of the vermi bed and watering process, and finally types and methods of vermicomposting. So let us begin. First, we'll understand what is vermicomposting. So basically, vermicomposting is a process of converting organic waste into the compost with the help of earthworms. This is called as vermicomposting. So in this process, we make use of different organic waste. They are being eaten up by the earthworms, and in their gut, it is being converted or it is broken down, and when it is ejected out of the body of the earthworm, we call it as a vermicompost. So this process of conversion is called as vermiconversion. So in this vermiconversion process, all the organic waste that is present in the soil is being converted into the valuable vermicompost by the digestive action of the earthworms. So in a simple or in short way, we can call vermicomposting is a simple biotechnological process of composting. Now, we make use of this earthworm to enhance the conversion of the different crop residues or the animal waste and convert it into a valuable product that is called as a vermicompost. So, it is commonly referred to as a black wood. Vermicompost is also called as a black wood because it is very cheaply available and it is a very valuable manure for the different plants. Now let us understand the different steps in the vermicomposting process. So first we will start with the site selection. Then we will select the different containers in which we are going to continue the process of vermicomposting. Then selection of the suitable species of the earthworm is very much important because the ultimate production of the vermicompost will depend upon which species we are utilizing. The next step will include multiplication of these worms. So we'll understand how we do it. Then selection of the food material for this vermicomposting process. Preparation of the vermi blend is a very important stage in this vermicomposting process. Then inoculation of earthworms, that means we are introducing the earthworm to the vermi blend. Next step is feeding. So the if we provide them proper food material, then they are going to convert it into the valuable vermicompost. Also, watering plays a very important role in the maintenance of the vermi bed. Then will then there are different methods of the vermicomposting that you will understand in the next lecture and different types of the vermicomposting. Finally, the product that is produced by the earthworm, which is we call it as a vermicompost, needs to be harvested from these vermi beds. So that is called as harvesting of the vermicompost. Similarly, after getting the product, whatever earthworms which we have used, they also needs to be separated from that vermi bed. That is called as harvesting the earthworms. Finally, whatever vermicompost that we have produced in this process that needs to be properly stored and then packaged for the market. So let us start with the first step, that is site selection for vermicompost. Now, the site selection plays a very important role in the process of vermicomposting because these earthworms they always prefer to live in a shady areas where the moisture content is very high. So normally, while selecting such kind of areas, you first have to have some criteria in mind so as to select the proper site. So you should always go for an elevated, cool, shady area which has a high humidity content. Such area should be preferred for the process of vermicomposting. The selected area should have a slope. Okay, otherwise the water will stagnate, and we do not want stagnation of the water. So there should be proper flow to that particular area, so the water will flow away excess of the water, and it will avoid the stagnation of the water. Most commonly in the villages, the farmers make use of the abandoned cattle sheds or the poultry sheds for the process of this vermicomposting. Even the vermicomposting can be carried out in the vermibeds in open area as well. But while doing this in the open area, you have to ensure there should be the ample amount of shade is available. You can do it below the vegetation. There should be availability of the shade. Also, a thatch roof, that means which is made use of the vegetation that can be provided to protect these vermibed from the direct sunlight. Because if direct sunlight is there, there are chances of the death of the earthworms. You have to maintain good amount of shade. The next criteria for the site selections, there should be the good transport facility should be available. So finally, you are going to make a product that is a vermicompost that needs to be transported to the local market. Therefore, you should have a good transport facility nearby your site. Okay, now we come to the second step, that is selection of the containers for this vermicomposting process. So we make normally you can make use of a different size container. It will depend on what scale you are producing the vermicompost. So you might prepare on a smaller scale or you might prepare on a larger scale. That will decide what type of containers you are going to use for the vermicomposting process. So whatever container, it may be of any type, that container which is used for the process of vermicomposting is called as a bioreactor. Now you can make use of the different type of containers. What are these different types of containers? You can make use of plastic bucket, plastic basin, wooden boxes, concrete tanks. You can also make use of the well rings. Then cardboard boxes can also be handy in preparation or the making you production of the vermicompost. So in this picture, you can see the different types of the containers. So if you are doing it on a smaller scale, you can make use of the small cement cup. You can make use of the plastic container like baskets or wooden boxes can also be made use of. If you are doing it on a larger scale, then you can have to make use of the larger containers like rectangular cement tubs, or you can make the cement concrete bed of the vermibeds. Then you can make use of the polythene enclosures also. They can be handy as a containers. So while doing the selection of these containers for the vermicomposting process, we should have some criteria in our mind. First of all, whatever container you are making use of, it should not retain the water, excess amount of water. This excess amount of water should drain away from the container. So you should provide a small sum so that whatever excess amount will be drained out from that container. If the water is not draining out, you should drain that with the manually from the composting unit. Because if the water content of the vertebrate increases, that increased moisture level may cause the death of the earthworms. So sometimes you can also make use of the hollow blocks or the bricks. This can be arranged in the vertebrate at a height of 1 feet, the breadth of 3 feet, and length as per the required length. So by doing that, you can remove the excess amount of water that will be soaked by the bricks which are putting in these working beds. Similarly, wooden boxes, plastic buckets, whatever containers which you are using for the vermicomposting process, you have to make sure you make small holes at the bottom. So whatever excess amount of water will be there, it will drain out from the water. Now let us study what should be the criteria for the selection of suitable species of earthworm for the process of vermicomposting. First of all, whatever species that you are utilizing, it should be very easy to culture. Secondly, it should have very high affinity to the composting material because it should consume that material at the same time. It should breed, so you will have a new earthworm for your next batch. It should be voracious feeder. That means it should continuously feed onto the organic material. If it is continuously feeding, obviously it increases the productivity. That means the amount of vermicompost that you will get from that particular vermicomposting batch. Next criteria, it should have a wide range of organic waste feed. So it should not be like that species feeds only on the one source of organic waste like vegetable waste, but it can also grow on the any type of organic waste that will increase the productivity of the vermicompost. Nextly, you should have a high rate of vermicast output. What is this vermicast? Actually, when the organic waste is digested by these earthworms, the fecal matter is given out in the form of vermicast, and that vermicast is nothing but the vermicompost. So, if you have the high amount of vermicast produced by the earthworm, that will obviously increase your vermicast or your vermicompost production. They should be prolific breeders because these earthworm, if they breed at a faster rate, obviously you will get more earthworm to start the new batches. Resistance to the disease is very important aspect because many a times if any disease earthworm is there, it will pass to the other earthworms and your entire batch of earthworm will be killed in this process. So you have to ensure whatever earthworm species you are utilizing should be resistant to the different diseases. The earthworm species should be adaptable to the climatic conditions because many a time it happens that even during one day you have a fluctuation in temperature or humidity or other parameters. So these species should be adaptable to these climatic changes. It is very important that you go for the epigeic species of the earthworm. What are epigeic species? These are the surface dwelling earthworms which normally do not go deep into the soil. So whenever you prepare your vermibed, you want this earthworm do not go into the soil because otherwise you will not get this earthworm for the next batch. So always prefer the epigeic earthworms or the surface dwelling earthworms. Now let us understand which are the commonly used species of the earthworms. The African earthworm, that is Utulus eugeni, red worm, that is Bicinia foetida, and Indian blue worm, that is Perionyx excavatus, are the three important species of the earthworm which are normally used in the process of vermicompost. In certain conditions you can make use of only one species, that is called as monoculture, or sometimes you can utilize all these three species for the vermicomposting. That process is called as polyculture. Now, what are the requirements? Obviously, these earthworms are the living organisms, so they will also have the requirements in terms of the environmental factors or other requirements. So first of all, whatever vermibed you are providing to them should be a hospitable vermibed. What is mean by that? It should have optimum conditions for these earthworms to survive as well as to breed. Food source. Now they will require or they are continuously feeding. So you have to provide the required amount of food material at a constant interval. Okay, so that they will feed onto that food source and they will produce the vermicompost. Adequate moisture. It is considered that always maintain the moisture level at a high percentage. That is 75 to 95, sorry, 75 to 90% is considered as an optimum moisture level for the growth and production of the vermicompost. Then adequate aeration. Whatever air present in the atmosphere that also mixes with this vermibed. So you should have the proper amount of the aeration in the vermibed area. The optimum temperature. Normally, these earthworms they prefer low temperature. Lower temperature means in a range of 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. It's considered as a optimum temperature for the growth of earthworms. Neutral pH. They prefer to live at neutral pH, that is pH should be around 7 for their optimum growth. Now let us understand why there is need of the multiplication of the earthworms. First of all, we require large quantity of these vermicompost production. So while doing so, we will require the large quantities of the earthworms. So these earthworm, they needs to be multiplied. That means they will do the breeding, and through that we will get a large number of earthworms. So for this process, we require a wooden box that is called as a breeder box. A breeder box is normally a wooden box or a paper carton can also be made use of, and it has a polythene lining on the inside surface. Sometimes even you can make use of an earthen pot as well for this breeding of the earthworms. The box which you are utilizing should have some dimensions. So ideally 60 centimeter by 60 centimeter with a height of 5 centimeter can be utilized to hold a population of around 5,000 to 6,000 worms. Now in this breeder box you have to provide the good optimum condition for their multiplication. So you should provide a mixture of 15 kg fresh cow dung and 15 kg hay shreds in the ratio of 1:1. Now this mixture is kept by sprinkling the water so as to maintain the moisture level. Now allow this mixture to ferment for 15 days. After that, release 50 earthworm in this box. Okay, so you have already prepared the food material and now you are introducing the earthworms. Within 2 months, now you keep it for 2 months this box, and the earthworm will start multiplying and they will produce 600 to 1000 juveniles. So this is a picture of a breeder box. So after a few months, you will get a huge population of these earthworms developed in this breeder box, and these earthworms can be taken from this box and they will be utilized for the vermicomposting process. Now why there is need of the multiplication of earthworm? Obviously, to get plenty of the earthworm, we require more earthworm for the vermicomposting process. For inoculating earthworm into agriculture or horticultural field, sometimes we do not do the vermicomposting but directly introduce the earthworm to the agriculture area. That is called as ex situ vermiculture. And whatever vermicomposting we do in containers or in the beds, that is called as a in situ vermiculture. Sometimes we require the vermicast, that is the excreta of this earthworm, and the final product we call it as vermicompost, that is also obtained from these earthworms, so that's why we require more earthworms. The another product that you get from the vermicomposting process is called as vermiwash. So this is a liquid that you get from this vermibed, which is a very rich in the different nutrients as well as it has some insecticidal property as well. Also, you use the earthworm as a feed in the aquaculture industry. So that for that purpose also you will require more earthworm. So you need to multiply them. In dairy farming and poultry industry also, the earthworms are required. In the fishing activity, the earthworms are used as a bait to attract the fishes, so they are required in that fishing industry. Sometimes these earthworm can also be used in some medicinal, traditional, or the recent medicinal practices. Earthworm are used. Now we come to the next point, that is food selection for vermicomposting. So what should be the criteria for the food selection? Now these food, whatever food, we know that earthworm only food feed onto the biodegradable matter. So you should always provide them with the biodegradable organic waste. What should be the sources for this waste? So it could be organic kitchen waste, it can be agricultural farm waste, it can be dung of the cattle, it can be the agricultural market waste, it can be the garden waste also. Sometimes you can directly use the cow dung, sheep dung, pig dung, vegetable waste. Old compost can also be, if it is lost the nutritional properties, it can also be used as a raw material. Then you can make use of the fruit peels, that is the outer layer of the fruits. The discarded food items, many a times a lot of food get waste, that food can also be utilized. Then bread, log which is not consumed. Then other manures can also serve as a raw material. So the food can be made available from the different sources of this organic waste. So the food that you are preparing for the earthworm should not be of only one source, but it can be the mixture of all the sources just we have discussed about. And these food items, they are made into a heap. So you make a heap of these food items and then you will introduce the earthworms. It should be watered because you have to maintain the moisture level. You should give the watering and allow this food material to decompose for 15 days. Okay, so you will first make a heap of the food material. You will do the watering for 15 days. Allow these food material to decompose. Because if you provide the direct waste, the earthworm will not be able to consume that. But if you provide the pre-digested material or decomposed material, it will be readily utilized by the earthworms. The microorganisms. So what actually happening when you are keeping it for 15 days? The microorganisms or fungi which are present in this heap or this organic waste, they will break down the complex material into the simpler materials. Now these simpler materials are easy to feed on by the earthworms. So this 15 days process is called as a fermentation process, and during this fermentation of organic waste, a lot of heat will be given out. So the heat of the organic matter increases, and after 15 days it will gradually decrease and it will come, the temperature will come around 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. Now this is called as a pre-digested feed stock. Okay, and you have to provide these 15 days pre-digested feed stock to the earthworm as a food material. Now we come to the next step, that is preparation of the wormy bed. So preparation of the wormy bed, because it is actually a layers, different layers are prepared while preparing the wormy bed. So it starts with the basal layer or the bottom layer in the container. So what is this basal layer consist of? It include layer of broken bricks, pebbles. So broken bricks and pebbles, they are kept at the bottom or the base layer. Then you will put a second layer of the sand, that is coarse sand is used. Then the third layer is that of the loamy soil. So the third upper layer is that of the loamy soil, and then the fourth layer is that of the coconut husk. So whatever the outer covering of the coconut, that is known as coconut husk, will form the fourth layer. So in this picture, you can see the preparation of the wormy bed. So you have a basal layer, you have the middle layer, then you have the top layer, and in that you will add the pre-digested food stock, and you will introduce the earthworm. The earthworm will start feeding onto this pre-digested food stock, and they will convert it into the vermicompost. Sometimes you can also cover it with a polythene sheet so as to maintain the moisture level, and every day you have to do the watering to this vermi bed so as to maintain the proper moisture content. Yes, so what is the role of the basal layer that we are making use of the rocks and pebbles? Basal layer is required to filter out the excess water. So it will drain out excess water present in the wormy bed, and it will also provide shelter for the worms. Because after the feeding is done, that means the entire wormy bed is converted to vermicompost, no food is available. At that time, they will go and settle at the bottom layer. The layer of sawdust or shredded cardboard or shredded paper can also be added to the bottom layer. And above this layer, you will add the layer of the straw, that is the dry grasses. Then it is covered with broad leaves like coconut leaves or larger leaves or gunny bags. So on the top layer is covered with the gunny bag or the large size leaves so as to maintain the moisture level of the wormy bed. Yes, on each layer water is added. So you will sprinkle the water on each layer so as to maintain the moisture level. Watering is continued on alternate day. There is no need to water every day because it may cause the excess water. So every alternate day you will do the watering to the bed. Now this above setup is called as a vermi bed. It is allowed to decompose for 15 days, and after that the total height of the vermi bed should reach to the 4 inches, or it can increase by the 4 inches, and in that you will add 100 earthworms. So now this in bed you will add the earthworms, which will get the pre-decomposed food material to start the feeding, and they will convert it into the vermicompost. Yes. So while feeding these earthworms, when they are feeding onto these pre-digested feed stock, you have to maintain the food material or the thickness of that particular wormy bed should be maintained at least 8 inches. If it is below that, the worm, it will be not sufficient for these earthworms. Now it is not necessary to add all the food materials at one time, but you will add the food material at a shorter time interval or time installment. So you can have a time interval of thrice in a week. So in 1 week, you will add the food material 3 times. Watering, as I said, it should be done on the alternate days, and this entire system or this vermi bed, entire system is nothing but vermi bed, should be covered with the long leaves or the gunny bags, and that will maintain the moisture level. So in this bread, in this vermi bed, the earthworm, they are not only utilizing the organic waste, but at the same time, the breeding of the earthworm will also take place. Now it is very essential that you should not feed certain food materials to the earthworms. You should not give them the vegetable scraps, that is the outer unutilized part of the vegetable, directly. Then crop waste should not be given directly. Then tree, bush leaves, fruit peels, moldy bread, that means the bread which is having the growth of the fungus, it should not be given because it can invite different diseases. Use tea leaves, they should not be avoided. Then non-greasy food leftovers, coffee material, crushed shells of the fishes or the shellfishes, shredded paper products or cardboard, different other manures, citrus family members like lemon and other fruits of the citrus family, they should not be added. Then meat, fish should be avoided. Dairy products, twigs and branches, dog fecal matter, cat fecal matter, or a poultry manure or waste. These products should not be added to the vermibed because these products can cause the fungal growth or other diseases can appear in the earthworms. Now we come to the next step, that is watering the vermibed. Now watering is very essential step so as to maintain the optimum moisture level. So vermibed is sprinkled with water daily or alternate day. Now this will depend upon the season also. Like in summer season, the water will evaporate very fast. So you may have to water every day. But in season like winter or in the season of monsoon, you do not require to water every day. But you can do it alternate days. Now the earthworm require very high moisture content, that is 75 to 90% moisture level is required. In rainy season, water should be sprinkled over the bed rather than pouring. So you should not pour but just sprinkle little amount of the water because already the water content will be high. Watering should be stopped 1 week prior to harvest of the vermicompost. So before 1 week you will stop the watering, and then after completing 7 days then you can harvest the final vermicompost. Now the last part of today's lecture, that is types of vermicomposting. So there are two basic types of vermiculture or vermicomposting, that is monoculture and polyculture. So the name itself suggests monoculture. Mono means one. So here we do the rearing of only one species. That means only one species of the earthworm is added for the process of vermicomposting. Then it is called as a monoculture. Now vermicompost that is obtained from the monoculture, that is utilizing only one species of the earthworm, may have less concentration of micro and macronutrients because obviously we require large nutrient content in the final product, that is vermicompost. It should be rich in the NPK as well as the other micronutrients. But when we utilize do this vermicomposting by monoculture, we utilize only one species, so nutrient content is less. Whereas the growth, biomass and fecundity of the earthworm also is lesser. That means survival of fecundity, survival and the growth is also very less in the monoculture system. On the other hand, polyculture system is very advantageous. There are many advantages. First of all, you can make use of the two different type of species, that is epigeic and aneic. That means surface dwelling and bottom dwelling. Both the species can be utilized at the same time. So the conversion rate of the organic waste to vermicompost becomes faster. So the vermicompost which is obtained from the polyculture method shows higher concentration of the micronutrients as well as the macronutrients. So in macronutrients we talk about nitrogen, potassium and we have the potassium. Then we have the different micronutrients that we are going to study in the next coming lecture. The growth, biomass and fecundity of the earthworm is higher as compared to the monoculture. So polyculture is very advantageous, that you get a high proportion of the macro and micronutrients as well as the growth of the earthworm is faster. You get a more biomass, that means more number of the earthworms, as well as the final product is higher. It increases the mineralization process and the microbial activity. So since the microbial activity is high, obviously the conversion of organic waste into the vermicompost increases. And the culture system and whatever waste you are adding are same in the both these culture system, that is monoculture as well as in the polyculture. Finally, we will enlist different methods of the vermicomposting. So these methods of the vermicomposting includes pit method. So in that we make a pit in the soil, and in that vermicomposting is done. Heap method is done on the ground, where you put the organic waste in the form of a heap, and then you will add these earthworms. Then bin or tray method, it is done for the shorter or the smaller scale industry. So you make use of the plastic containers or these different type of the container like wooden boxes for this bin or tray method of vermicomposting. Windrow method is done in a form of a parallel rows. Wedge system is like you do this system in parallel rows which are not parallel but at the shape of a V. So when you prepare the vermibed in the form of V shape, then it is called as a wedge system. Then stacked bin method is the next method. You have a vermi reactor system. You have different type of beds used, that is bed system or bed method, and continuous flow system, that is the system that is utilized for the continuous production of vermicompost. So if we summarize, today we have understood what is meant by vermicomposting, what are the basic steps of the vermicomposting process, what criteria should we keep in mind for the site selection, for the selection of the containers, selection of the suitable species of the earthworm, what should be the criteria, which are the commonly utilized species like Eutyllus eugenie, then multiplication of the earthworm and what is the requirement of the multiplication, because it is used not only in the vermicomposting but in the other system or in other methods also. Then what should be the criteria for the food selection, which food should be avoided, then preparation of the vermibed and watering of the vermibed, and different types, that is monoculture and polyculture, and different methods that we have enlisted about the vermicomposting process. So with this we conclude today's lecture. Thank you so much.